Kia ora, everyone. I'm speaking with a man that's never, ever going to forget 2020, although you probably want to, mate, Ross.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough year for sure. It's been exciting in some ways, starting my own business and that, but yeah, we've had a rough ride, that's for sure.
Mate, how much was that out of necessity, or was this something you had in the back burner before COVID took your job and locked you in your house?
Actually, that's a really good question. Yeah, a bit of necessity, I guess. So obviously, I was a workshop foreman in a mechanic shop, and I was dealing with a lot of reps. And I'd done a couple of oil deals and got really friendly. And I actually knew the one of the head kind of honchos at an oil blenders who was one of our suppliers. And when I lost my job, he was gutted for me, and we got on really well. And I kind of said, "Oh, do you guys ever make any tool oil and stuff?" He goes, yeah, we make tool oil. Well, kind of, what is that? And I go, "Oh, I'm a hunter and I'm into firearms. Have you ever made gun oil?" He said, "Oh, we used to make gun oil years ago, but we haven't made any for a long time. And we don't have any of the formulas anymore." And I kind of just pitched the idea and said, "Look, I'm out of work, this is kind of my idea, and I don't want to buy big quantities, because most of the time these companies, they want, if they're going to formula an oil for you, they want 1,000 litres minimum first order." Jeez. And there was no way there's no way that I could do that. But because of COVID and the downturn and all of that, he was happy, and we got on so well and we're good friends. He was happy to do me a bit of a deal on that, and I actually ended up working in their company, packing boxes and fixing conveyor belts and stuff like that for a few days as well, just to kind of sweeten the deal there, really. And went backwards and forwards testing lots of different oils and products to come up with an oil that I was really happy with, and then had to go with a name and a brand and all of that. So I guess, to answer your question, it was a necessity, really.
You almost make that story sound beautiful there, Roscoe.
Yeah. Thanks, bud.
You said about 1,000 litres. How big's one of those little bottles?
The bottles that we're bottling into is 50 mil. So we didn't buy 1,000 litres straight up.
No.
And that would have, we just wouldn't have been able to bankroll that for sure.
So share us the name, High Caliber. Where did all the branding come from, brother?
So just rolling off a couple of trusted friends who have done a bit of their own smaller businesses in the past, just talking to them, saying, "Hey, look, this is the idea of actually, I've done the hard part. I've got an oil and some other products in the pipeline, and I haven't got a name or website or Instagram or anything. And what do you suggest?" And I thought of I wanted large caliber or something like that. And people are like, "That's no good. That's no good." I want the caliber thing, because it's the play on words for the firearms and blah, blah, blah. And someone said, "Oh, why not, high caliber?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it. That's the one, straight away." So yeah, high caliber cleaning supplies. And we were, we're going to sell everything from patches, gun cleaning rods, branded cloths, cleaning mats, you name it, it's all in the pipeline. It's all just cash flow and getting quality people to come on board and design and help us with getting the products out to the people, really.
Magic. One of the things, so Dave Byrne from Hunting Elite's been sort of pushing is, why can't we make stuff here in Australia, or there in Australia, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of that going on in New Zealand as well. Well, if we're reliant on these supply chains and they're not working right now, why can't we do it here? And we used to do it here, but like the gun oil, we used to do that.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is, like, I was looking, is it more cost effective? Well, I wanted a little bottle of rem oil, and we were buying oils to test. That stuff's not cheap. Like the cheapest stuff we found was like in a bargain bin, and it was like $10 and it wasn't even 50 mil. It was like 33 mils, which is like 1 fluid ounce, like a US bottle.
Mm.
And it was, but normally that retails for like $30 for that little bottle of gun oil. So it's not like we're saving money by getting it from overseas. It's still bloody expensive. Or I can produce it here. Yes, I'm a small family business. It's just me and my partner, and we don't have many overheads. But I can produce it here and sell it here for less than you could buy a lesser quality product from overseas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And there's probably, if they can sell it for $10, there's probably a bit of margin going on with the scale. But as you say, for the end
Yeah.
consumer, what's
Well, that was in a
makes sense.
bargain bin on special. So yeah, it normally retailed for a fair bit more than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we looked into, we wanted the best possible quality oil that we could get at the time, and we tested all the major brands. So we got some Rem oil, we got some Gun Slick, we got some Hoppies, we got everything we could find, and we tested it all, and we found that the highest quality was like a grade 2 or grade 3 base oil. Well, I wanted better than that. I wanted to be the best oil we could find. I wanted to have the best quality stuff. So we went with a triple 4 times distilled grade of mineral oil, and we put a bonding agent into that oil, and that bonding agent helps all of our other additives bond into that oil, but it also helps the oil bond to the metal.
Dog's back in.
Sorry, Sam's just come home and making a bit of noise. I might have to move into another room.
You're right, mate.
I'll go into the other room. Putting the shopping away. Sorry about that.
That's all right, mate. I can
So yeah, we went with a really high quality base oil, and then I wanted an oil that was going to film. Like a lot of blokes, we've gone with the whole can of WD or CRC spray, and you spray it on your gun, and it all runs off in the safe. By the time you pull your gun out with, a week later, whatever, a month later, however often you shoot, it's all ran onto your stock and everything else. And that stuff's got so much cleaning products and other solvents in there. That's what gives you the black marks on your wooden stock.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want something that was going to run everywhere. I want something that's actually going to stay on there. So we put like a car-based magnetic additive, say for instance, like the Castrol Magnetec.
Mm-hmm.
It's got something in there that actually sticks to all the metal in the car and stays on there. Well, I wanted basically that to do that with a rifle. So we added an additive that does that, and that bonding agent helps to do that as well. And then we put a small amount of solvent in there that will burn evaporate off the oil, and just not all of it, but it will leave that really nice slick film. So it kind of, you put it on, you wipe it on, and it kind of dries, and you're just left with this really protective, nice film over the whole gun. And then we found that over the period of a couple of weeks, that dust would stick to that oil, of course, because it stays on. It's like, okay, how do we get over that? So, okay, let's put an anti-static additive, mix that, blend that into the mark, and then that's it. It was a few samples and a few trial and errors, but yeah, once we got that mix, it was like, yeah, this is perfect. This is the oil that we want. This is the best quality oil. We found the magic oil, really.
Brilliant. So, as someone that knows jack shit about gun oils and definitely bugger all about car oils, I was looking at my Blue 22 yesterday thinking, I need to put some oil on this. The oil I think I've got from my dad. So can they go off?
Well, definitely the solvents can evaporate. Some of the additives can evaporate over time and just leave you with a base oil. Does it go off? I guess that would be the closest thing to it, that some of them additives and solvents would evaporate, and they can evaporate through the bottle as well.
Mm-hmm.
So even though the bottle's sealed, some of the solvents can go through the plastics and evaporate off.
So does that just mean it's not going to work those effects, like you just reeled off effects that I'd never even bloody considered about oil? Like, is that when the solvents are gone, the effectiveness is gone?
Yeah, some of the effectiveness, some of, depending on what additives and the formula of it, some of the parts that they've tried to engineer that oil to do might not be doing that process anymore because the additives aren't there. The cleaning solvents, you know, the bits that actually will help clean up the gun as well as lubricate it, they might be gone. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what oil you've got, and I don't know. I'm not a chemist myself, but you know, I've been standing there in the process when we you know, heated oils up and cooled oils down and checked the viscosity and broke oils down with other oils to put oils in there, and you can see them break apart, the different solvents and stuff. So yeah, it's all interesting stuff.
You're saying you don't know what oil I have. That's the problem. I don't either. The
Yeah,
labels,
fair
the
enough.
labels peeled off. So no doubt some of those solvents have come through the bottle and it just destroyed the sticky
The
label, and that's
label.
why it's disappeared.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I knew like straight away that there was that this oil was gonna, we were onto a bit of a winner with this, and I sent it to, you know, I sent it to like Rob Herbert and other people that have got lots of guns and knives,
Mm.
and just, you know, I've had good feedback. You know, people like you know, a hound hunter. He said that it was going to be a wet weekend, so he's got a pump, and he put a heap of you know, probably over oiled his gun really, and he said it was just absolutely torrential rain for the entire weekend. The gun was soaked from head to tail. And he said, you know, it's an old hound gun. He's been hound hunting a long time, and he'd get home absolutely buggered on a Sunday night. It would be stuck in the safe or wherever, and he'd come to it, and there'd be all sorts of rust spots on it that he'd have to clean off in the following days. He said that he came to it, he forgot all about it, came to it Friday night when he was going to go up the bush, and he pulled it out, and there was still a film on there, and there was no rust on it whatsoever. He said he's never had any oil. He's another one of these, you know, can of CRC after every hunt, and he said, you know, it's the first time he's ever not had any little rust spots on his blue at all.
Yeah. So where did the sort of story for gun oils or the association for you come from? Is there something that you've, you know, declared? I'm a bit like, oh mate, you know, chuck it in the safe, you know, put a pull through it and chuck it in the safe. Where is your sort of gun maintenance sort of been instilled in you?
Oh yeah, I always found that. So obviously, being in the UK when I was a youngster and having a 2.2 and just being really slack with the maintenance of it, and just sticking it in the bag wet after a rainy rabbit hunt or something like that, and just rust all over the thing. I've always struggled to keep them clean. I've just never really stuck with maintenance, and but the whole cleaning supplies thing, the oil was never meant to be this big part of it. This was going to be like, okay, I want my own products. I don't want to be a reseller of other people's products. I want my own branded stuff. You know, I want my own patches. I want my own cleaning rods. I want my own bore snakes. I want a kit that it can all go in, which you know, we're working on all that stuff. But learning about the oil and being a mechanic by trade, and working with oil and metal every day for the last, you know, 17, 18 years, and then learning how they make it and what additives they put in, and the trial and error that went into formulating our own oil, really just fascinated me. And I just really wanted to get it out there and show people what we've made and what we've managed to achieve. And this is a bit of a game-changing oil, and especially, you know, for the Australian market.
Yeah. Is there any direct competitors within Australia?
I don't know of any Australian company that's making oil and blending it in Australia. I mean, some of our ingredients don't come from Australia; they come from Malaysia,
Hmm.
as far as I know. But the oil is formulated here and blended here and bottled here.
Oh,
So we get, you know, we get off the shelf however many liters of that and that and that, and we put it into a big vat, and we blend it all up over hours and hours and hours, and then we bottle it, and then I bottle each bottle individually myself. I measure it out with a 50 ml syringe, and then in the bottle, and plunge and clean it all up, and put the stickers on.
mate, a lot. This is so cool talking to someone at the fledgling stage. Like,
Yeah.
what's sort of been feedback like diving into, you know, small personal, say you and your partner business?
Um. Yeah, it's hard. Um. To to switch off really, and to get a right workflow, you know. You know, one minute I'm doing heaps of it, I'm doing all the invoicing and all the bottling and everything, and then I can't, I'm busy, and then Sam has to pick up some of that slack and bits and pieces. But look, on the whole, because we've had a lot of time off from our day jobs, we can't go anywhere because we're in lockdown. So it's been a good thing for us to do in this kind of this, you know, lockdown period, I guess.
Mm. So did you, you said you're working with him on the line. Did you get back to your job in between lockdowns, or there was just
Um,
still no work?
no, no, I never went back there as a foreman again. I never went back there full stop. I ended up getting my white card and doing a couple of other tickets and becoming a labourer for a construction company.
Yeah.
But then construction is kind of dwindling in certain areas. So I looked out for another mechanic's job, found a full-time role that I was in for about 6 weeks, and then we've gone boom, lockdown 2.0.
Yeah.
And I'm now part-time with them, but I am picking up, I'm going back because I've got all of these contacts within the construction industry. I'm a good welder, and you know, I got some skills. I've been doing bits and pieces on building sites and here and there, and yeah, so I've been earning enough to get by, and the rest of the time is just being focused on high caliber. So yeah, high caliber is giving me something to focus on, and you know, not just sit at home and turn Netflix on.
um, not that right now you'll be out hound hunting, but how much has disruption to the season has it been?
So yeah, so the first weekend was the first weekend of hound season. It was like that following week that we went into the official lockdown where we couldn't actually go. They banned hunting, so we missed 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a few more, maybe 6 weeks at the start. And then
Mm.
I think we hunted for about 6 weeks, but we weren't allowed to camp at the start.
Yeah.
So we were going, you know, places we could kind of day trip, going up super, super early in the morning and then just coming back late at night. And, you know, because we're obviously trying to avoid the whole camping situation, and, you know, big days in the bush, making sure all the dogs are back before, so, you know, because you couldn't camp. I shot a few. Um, we got some really nice stags on my crew. We got a few over 30 inches at the start of the
Wow.
season. Yeah, and after with the bushfires and the lockdown, we thought that we just didn't think that we were going to have a good season. It was the mood around camp wasn't great. We were all pretty, you know, pretty down in the dumps about the areas to hunt were fewer because of the fires had burnt a lot of our hound hunting spots,
Oh, we.
and that we couldn't camp and lock down and other bits and pieces. But we had an absolute cracker opening where we you know, first few weeks where we got a few over 30, a few around the 29, 30 inch mark, which was good. And good numbers hit the deck, and everyone was filled their freezer full of meat again, which was great.
Yeah.
And yeah, the meat's been good. I've got a mincer, and I've been making spaghetti bolognese with venison mince.
Mm.
My local butcher around the corner has been hitting me up with the pork fat so I can, you know, get the ratios right. And think the next when I get a bit of free time in between high caliber and trying to find a full-time employment is gonna make some sausages.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you'll be the envy of the neighbourhood. That one, you got a full freezer, and two, you got pork fat and the ability to make some snarlers, which will last forever.
Yeah, well, I shot one. I don't know how long we've been in lockdown now. I've lost track of days, but I shot one before we went into lockdown and had a half a hind, you know, some front legs and back legs hanging in the garage. And one of my neighbours walked past, and I'm in the suburbs of Melbourne. Not, you know, it's not really a hunting community around here, and his dog obviously got a whiff of the deer, and he was in the his little corgi was in the garage, and he was going, "Oh, what's it? What can my dog smell?" I go, "Probably the legs I've got hanging up." And he was like, "Oh bloody hell! What are they from?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I shot a deer yesterday, and I'm gonna hang the legs and butcher them up and eat them." And yeah, having a bit of a probably chatted to him for 45 minutes to an hour about, you know, what we do and hunting and butchering and cooking it and all of that that goes along with it, which was good, really.
Did he have much of an understanding for hunting? Like, what sort of path did the conversation take?
No, yeah, it was good. He was really open-minded about it. He was every time I see him, he goes, "Oh, have you got any of that meat left?" And yeah, he was really understanding about it. Obviously, I try not to leave my garage door open when I've got legs hanging in there, and I don't bring it up, and I don't really want my neighbours knowing about what I do, because there's a big anti-hunting community out there, and there's 80% of the population probably sit on the fence with it, even though they'll happily go to Coles and buy a steak and chew on that and think nothing of it. But if they know that their neighbour's a hunter, then they don't like that for some reason.
And have you sort of found that, or it's just a little bit of a conception of what it might be, given the neighbourhood?
No, definitely. Some of my partner's friends, when we've been out for dinner parties and stuff like that, and I've cooked here and I've cooked venison for them. They don't understand it. They don't get why I'd want to go into the bush and kill such a magnificent creature, and why I get enjoyment and pleasure out of that. A lot of people, especially, seem like a lot of my partner's family and friends don't understand it. So yeah, there is a bit like that, but you kind of associate with people in your friendship group who share the same interests. So most of the people I speak to are obviously or hunters or fishermen, or both.
Hmm. Yeah, it must be quite bizarre to be cooking the thing, and this is what I love about hunting, is being able to cook and share and tell the story of venison and wild places and wild trips that you've been to, but then to then have the motive question, like you say, when most people are happy to go to Coles and grab a steak. How does that sort of land with you, and where does the conversation end up?
Yeah, I had one of my friends, close friends, say to me that it's pretty sick and disgusting that I would kill something, and she said, "Yeah, but I'm a bit hypocritical because I'll go and buy a roast chicken and eat that tonight." And I said, "Well, look, that roast chicken, do you know how it lived, where it lived, how it was killed, how long it was hung for, how long it's been dead?" And she looked at me and I said, "Well, I know all of those answers to all of my questions with this deer. I know where it lived. I know where it died. I know how it died. I know how long it's been hanging, how long it's been dead for. And, I'm butchering it. Anything I cut out all the stuff I don't want and keep the stuff I want. And, I know all of the answers to those questions, and I'm happy to have the blood on my hands. And to me, it feels right, more than just emotional, like almost like a spiritual level, like a calling, that this just feels right to me to do that."
Hmm. Yeah, I always think it's quite funny. It's like they're the person that maybe you should give the venison to and say, cook it up for me, send me a photo. But on the other hand, you kind of feel like, oh, you don't appreciate what's gone into this, obviously.
There's definitely a bit of that. I've definitely given a lot of venison out over the years here and in the UK, and I see the person a month later, "What have you done with that venison?" "Oh, nothing, it's still in the freezer." And a year
Ugh,
later, you say, "Oh, have you ever done anything with that venison?" "Oh no, it got old and we threw it out." It's, "Oh, I didn't know how to cook it." There's always an excuse. I go, "Well, what if you bought a steak? What would you do with the steak from the supermarket?" "Oh, well, I'd fry it up and blah, blah." I go, "Well, you should have just done that with the steak I gave you." Like, "Oh, what, you can cook it like beef?" Well, yeah, you kind of can. Like, yeah, you can really, if you wanted to do that. You
yeah.
can cook it however you want to cook it.
And that's where I think getting close to the butchery of things as well is kind of like you look at the carcass and you break it down in a very similar way. And, the middle stuff is for frying, and those rump and stuff are for staking up. And then you got the other ones that you slow cook. It's basically the same with a lamb, goat, deer, bull, all pretty similar.
Yeah, well, that's it. If you want a slow cooked lamb shank, well, there's no reason why you can't have a slow cooked venison shank.
It's bloody good actually. I've got
Uh,
two in the freezer that I need to get into the slow cooker. Where did you learn
nice.
sausage making, man?
Oh, I haven't done any sausage making yet. One of the guys in my fishing club, actually, he's a bit of an amateur sausage maker, and I always drop in and see him, and when I could, and give him a leg or whatever, or a backstrap or something, and he's turned them into cabana and salami and all sorts for
Mm.
me. And there's a joint in Melbourne. that does sausage making courses, which he's been on and stuff. So look, once we're out of this lockdown and everything comes, he's really into it and knows a lot about it very quickly, and I'm pretty keen to learn from him and to probably do a sausage making course as well.
Yeah, one thing that I need to be able to shoot more deer for is I want to try and make a marqueta. So that's basically a hanging in a ham out of venison.
Hmm.
Are you sort of game into hanging it? Potentially having something sit there for 3 months and test it out at the end.
Look, I'm probably not at that stage yet. Look, I would never say no to stuff like that, but I find that now with the mincer just opens up so much more, and I seem to go through a lot more venison now. We can make venison tacos and bolognese and a lot of other meat sauces that if you don't have that meat grinder, aren't available to you, and those cuts of meats tend to get either not cooked well or get wasted.
Hmm. How do you feel the gifting of meat differs from a fish versus venison?
I used to gift a lot of meat to anyone and everyone and say, hey, look, take this, take a bit of backstrap, take a tenderloin, whatever. But now um, I feel that I'd rather cook it up for them
Mm-hmm.
and say, look, I'll cook this up for you. And when it comes to fish, I'm not, to be honest, I don't take that many fish, and I mustn't very good fisherman. But I have given the odd snapper or two to Sam's dad, and he does the cooks it up in the oven with the old lemon and that, which does turn out well. But I tend to hang on to my fish and take what I need for me and Sam. But when you shoot a samba, there's a lot of meat there, and you don't want that to go to waste. And sometimes too, people can't eat all of that, and the dogs. But so I do try and gift it to people. There's people who I hunt with, or who don't get out as often and don't shoot as many as me, and I always give them a lot, and they appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So obviously you guys are back in lockdown in your British accent, as we know. How was it
Yep.
sort of, that was what we were talking about with the fires, how does it feel being on the other side of the road from family, going through a crisis? And then this time there's two different crises, but the same crisis. How's it been connecting with back home?
Probably talking to people back home almost every day. I've had a couple of my close mates contract COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Guys I went to school with, a guy that actually came over with me and lived here for 5 years, and decided he wanted to go back to the UK, probably 3-4 years ago now. And yeah, he lives in London, and he contracted it, and he was very sick with it. He didn't go to hospital. He did recover, but is he back to where he was before? No, he's not. And I've got a few other mates like that. Guy that I used to work with, he's not 100% recovered, but he's over the worst of it. We do have some family and friends who have got it as well, but don't really know exactly the full extent of their recovery and that as yet. Everyone's just trying to stay home. My parents are basically in a bit of a lockdown and only doing the really essential things, and seeing the closest family that they can see when it's safe to do so. So it's hard. I was meant to go over for my mum's birthday this year and spend some time with them, but obviously we can't. So yeah, it's tough sometimes. I kind of felt a bit sorry for myself when I lost my job the first time round when COVID happened, and I didn't really know how to cope and deal with it properly. And I think that's why starting High Caliber was good. And some days I still have the bad days where I think about family and friends in the UK, because they're in a lot worse position than we are here.
Hmm.
I mean, they're coming out of lockdown with, hundreds of deaths a day and thousands of people still getting the illness, and they're coming out of lockdown. And we've got hundreds of people a day and less than 10 people dying a day. And it just, I talk in cases per day, and my mum talks in deaths per day, and her deaths outweigh our cases almost every day. So it's a different story over there, and I hope that doesn't happen here. And I hope, the UK can get on top of it.
Yeah, that was what was really bizarre about New Zealand, and our numbers were so small, and so it was kind of like comparing to New South Wales on the whole, and what are the numbers like, and then for us now to move out of that lockdown and be lucky that we've got this little island, that we're all sort of running business as usual, but then you just need to turn on the news, scroll through your social media, especially with friends in Victoria, and go, shit, this is not over, and what are we sort of feeling here? Is there much resistance that you're noticing going back into a lockdown?
Yeah, I think so. I reckon the first lockdown, if I was popping to the shops, it was like a ghost town around Melbourne for sure. I don't know if everyone had nipped off to their holiday home or what in the first lockdown, or people had thought, you know what, I've got a bit of money in the bank. If it's only going to be a 6-week lockdown or whatever, I'll take that as holiday, or I'll live off my savings, or what. I think a lot of people were quite adapted quite well to the first lockdown to work from home or to take the time off.
Mm.
But I think this second lockdown is hurting people a lot more, especially some people like me, myself, and other people in our friendship group that are like, no, I've got to work. Like, I can't take any time off now. I did that I made my sacrifices the first lockdown. There's businesses out there that it hasn't seemed to have affected at all, and then there's other businesses out there that it's had massive effects on, like the hospitality industry. And then you don't speak to someone through the lockdown, and then you speak to a friend that you haven't spoken to in a couple of weeks, and you're like, oh shit, you worked in a restaurant and your partner works in a pub. Like, you both lost your jobs.
Yeah.
And they reopened for what, 4 weeks, and then they shut again. Like, and then you're like, Jesus, and they're in really bad, and they're like, we've got to do whatever we can to work and to keep the money coming in. And a lot of people here, I think, don't, like, I speak to my mum back home and other family back home and people that have had the illness, and I talk to them and I can see why we're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of people here can't see why we're doing it. They don't know anyone that's got it. It hasn't affected them. They don't know anyone overseas that's got it, and they're just in their own little bubble, and they just want to keep going, where they don't see the bigger picture.
Yeah. Is it giving you a different perspective to be connected with people that have got it, and in the UK where we sort of see it even now in the news that it's not going well? Has that sort of helped you justify to yourself that away from work, but obviously on the other hand, it's good to have something to do, like high caliber?
Um, Definitely. When I talk to, like, a couple of my friends who I would consider to be fitter and healthier than me, I don't necessarily know about healthier, but definitely fitter, more active blokes than me, and it affected them really badly. Like, they didn't go to hospital, they didn't go to ICU, but the effects long term, we just don't know. So I want to do whatever I can to avoid it, to be honest. And we're very critical of our government here. Yet when I talk to my friends and family in the UK, they're like, oh, New Zealand and Australia, they've got it right. We should have gone into lockdown earlier. We should have done this. We should have done that. But we're critical of our government, but they're saying how good our government is. And then I think people here were thinking, oh, we should have done what the UK did and just let the herd immunity run through. But now we've seen that there is definite cases, or what I've read anyway, that there's definite cases of people contracting the illness twice. I mean, we've never protected the human race from herd immunity from any virus ever. So I don't know why they thought that they would be able to do it with herd immunity with COVID. Like, we'd never managed to do that with the flu, and that runs through every year, and a lot of other illnesses that we have had no herd immunity through. The only thing that gives you immunity seems to be some sort of vaccine. Look, there's pros and pros and cons to all of these things. And I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not going to claim to say that this is good and this is bad, but I definitely think that they made a mistake thinking that the herd immunity was going to be the best way to go, especially now they've had 66,000 people or surpassed that in the UK.
Yeah, and the other thing to sort of feel about it is we're so short-sighted. It's kind of like, this is how we are at 6 months. Well, where's our country's going to go without having any immunity going on, and how do we reintegrate? But then it's kind of like, will there be anything left of the world anyway?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that you get people saying that because your body knows how to produce antibodies for COVID, that the second time round is easier for you to get over. But then you have other people saying that, well, it's affected. If you get it really bad, there's scarring on the lungs, there's long-term health effects. If you get it the second time, you might not survive it the second time. So look, I don't know what what to believe. All I know is it sounds really bad. My mates who have got it are telling me it's really bad, and I want to do what I can to avoid it. And to be honest, the only thing that's hurting me is the lack of work and not being able to go hunting. um you know I'm not really much of a pub goer or restaurant goer or cafe. I don't really drink takeaway coffee. So, all of those things that a lot of people in Melbourne like to do, that side of things isn't really affecting me. But, being able to get out into the bush is affecting me.
Hmm. And so bringing it full circle to high caliber, is it sort of adding an element of connection with those people that are important to you and the things that are important to
Yeah, definitely working with Sam on a project gives us a lot more engagement than just turning Netflix on.
you?
Um, Definitely talking to people like yourself about this product and the products that we're producing is great. Spending a lot of time promoting our products and talking to people through Instagram and getting samples out to um, people to test in the early stage was good, because I was talking to a lot of blokes that I would have loved to have spoken to before I had a business about how they do things and how they do that, like Steve Robinson from Bolt Action Productions. Like, me
Wow.
and my mate Dan, we watched his videos on backpacking, and we pretty much did similar trips to him, and it was all through his videos. We did a couple of backpacking trips into the high country. We kind of worked out strategies about that we need to camp near a water source and this and that, and we can't camp too high up because you've got to walk for water every day because you can't pack it in, and just lots of little things that we learned about the gear to take in, the right stuff to take in, the wrong stuff to take in. And we had an absolute ball, and we ended up doing two backpacking trips, and we're due another one, but just struggled to get out there and do it. But High Caliber has given me the opportunity to talk to Steve and Rob Herbert and a lot of other people that I've always kind of looked up to in that industry, um, and who have been there and done that, and they're trusted people. They're not going to tell you that you've got something that's good that's just rubbish. They're not going to do that. They're not going to use a product that's rubbish either. And I knew that, and going up against products that already exist. I'm not creating anything really that new that isn't out there, or you can't get a substitute for. I just wanted to produce the highest quality products at a reasonable price, and make as much of it in Australia as I can, and make a premium product but an affordable price.
Nice. So what's available at the moment, man?
So at the moment we've just got our multi-purpose oil available at the moment. We're pretty close to releasing our high pressure oil. So the difference really between the multi-purpose and the high pressure is the high pressure is more of like a lubricating oil for the kind of the semi-automatics, the shotguns, stuff like that. Guys that are going to the range shooting 250, 500 rounds a day at the range might want an oil with just a bit more staying power on the gun. It's not going to evaporate through heat as much as our multi-purpose possibly could. And in the action of a shotgun for, guys shooting plays all day long, which we do have. Our oil has been made, and it is in sample form, and I have given it to some guys that shoot clays, and they've put it in the action of their shotguns and say that it stays on all day. There's no evaporation or loss of oil throughout the day and the rubbing of cartridges and all the rest. But look, our multi-purpose will do 99.9% of that. Basically, the high pressure oil it's just a little bit thicker and just will stay on just that little bit longer. But we are finding that our multi-purpose almost does that job anyway. We've got cleaning mats and cleaning kits on the way, so I'm hoping by the end of next week we'll have a kit together with some oil, a nice mat, and a fully sealed ammo box that it all goes in. We're going to be taking pre-orders for that pretty soon. We have ordered the stock, so just waiting for that to arrive on the door. That's all in Australia, all that stuff. We're not buying it from overseas. It's stuff that was already here. We just need to get some of our branding on it and it packaged up so that we can send it out. We've got the new labels for the oil, so we'll be finishing up with the sample. Well, our first batch of oil with the first batch of stickers, which didn't have a proper branding on it. It had our branding and our logo on it, but didn't have it didn't have a really fancy artwork on it, is basically what I'm trying to say. So so in the next couple of weeks we'll have completely finished products, how they're going to look from going forward. And that's about it. There's other stuff in the pipeline, but we just need to see how that lot goes for now.
Mate, that's bloody exciting. And so where do people find that? On Instagram and website, is it?
So we're just doing orders through our email and Instagram at the moment. Our website is being built as we speak, which is good. Just been on the phone to the guys who are building that today. Just through Instagram, really. We are on Facebook too. We are answering messages on Facebook as well. So if you're interested, you could send an email to info@highcaliber.com.au. Which I think that's the email address I sent to you.
Yeah, that's right.
And our Instagram. So we're basically just directing people from Instagram to our email, and then we can get a quote sorted and an invoice ready, and there's all instructions of how to bank transfer, and we'll have PayPal up and running and that. So we're shipping anywhere. We're doing Australia-wide at the moment. We're doing free shipping, free postage, while we're just getting the first batch of the bottles until we get our full branding sticker bottles ready. And then once we're through them, there's not many of them left. There's probably only about 30 bottles left, the 100 and something that we had. And once we're through them, then there'll be postage, and the deal will stop on that free postage.
Nice. So any thing that you'd like to leave us with there, Ross, and any final thoughts?
Oh, look, just a follow on Instagram for now would really appreciate that. We're obviously a small growing company, so any just support for now. You don't have to buy our products. Great chatting with you again, Ryan. Thanks for inviting me onto the podcast to have a bit of a chat about it and talk while we're in lockdown, keeping the mind busy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we talked to you last time and it was about adventure and fire, and now it's about sitting tight, eh?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's been one hell of a year for us, and we're hoping that we can finish on a bit of a high. We're really excited about High Caliber. We're careful about our products and making sure we get good quality out there. And I think that it's definitely shown in our sales and in our reviews, really, and our feedback.
Wicked,
Well,
mate.
I'll get you some stuff sent out.
Cheers, brother. Wish you all the best, and thanks for coming on and telling the story. Wicked.
No, thank you, Ryan. Thanks very much. I'll catch you later.
Cheers.